Least, the exorcism of Emily Rose. You won't be able to escape the sin. Although many horror movies have been made in Hollywood, there was something very special about this film. Look at what was written on the poster of this film. Based on a true story, meaning it was inspired by real events. It was based on the story of Anneliese Michel, one of the most famous exorcism cases in world history. Anneliese Michel was a girl who was born in 1952 in West Germany. When she was 16 years old, one day she suddenly fainted at school. Her friends said that when she fainted, she was in a very strange, trance-like state for a minute or two. That evening, when she returned home and went to sleep in her room, she suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and said she felt a very heavy sensation on her body. When she looked at her bed, she realized that she had wet herself during the night. But then, for the next several weeks and months, nothing happened. Until about a year later, the same kind of incident happened again, and this time Anneliese's parents felt that she should see a doctor. The Sun newspaper reported that when her parents took her to the doctor, neither the doctor nor the neurologist found anything wrong with Anneliese. But then, about a year later, in February 1970, Anneliese contracted tuberculosis, because of which she was admitted to the hospital. This time, while she was lying in her hospital bed, Anneliese said that she saw very strange colors and heard voices. The doctor said that she had temporal lobe epilepsy, which was causing her seizures. Now, this isn't really such a rare disease. More than 50 million people travel by it worldwide. But Anneliese's case was quite unique. Within just a few days, Anneliese started having very dangerous hallucinations. She started seeing things that no one else could see. She began hearing voices that no one else could hear. There were voices in her head that kept telling her over and over that she was cursed. Because of this, she fell into a deep depression. But this was just the beginning. Catholic Christians often kneel down while doing a certain type of prayer. The Telegraph newspaper reported that Anneliese started doing this 600 times a day, to the point where the ligaments in her knees got damaged. Then once, she went and hid under a table and started barking like a dog for 2 days straight. Once, she ate a spider. Another time, she ate a piece of coal, and once, she even ate a bird. Her parents couldn't understand what was happening. When they didn't get any answers from the doctor, they went to a bishop and asked him to perform an exorcism on Anneliese. Exorcism means driving out an evil spirit from someone's body through religious procedures. In India, this is called Jatpum, spiritual cleansing rituals. It was said that there were 6 demons hiding inside Anneliese's body. Among them were the German dictator Adolf Hitler, the Roman Emperor Nero, and Judas, who was one of Jesus' disciples and betrayed him. The 4th was Cain, Adam's son, who killed his brother Abel. The 5th was Lucifer, who is considered the main devil in Christian theology. And the 6th was Valentin Fleischmann, a German Catholic priest from the 1500s, who was expelled from the church because of his drinking habits and on the basis of a murder charge. As the exorcism was performed on Anneliese Michel, it is said that the demons inside her began to speak. The actual audio clip from when this exorcism was taking place is still available online.
Ich will Schüler für die anderen Leute, damit die nicht in ihre kommen so.
Nein, ihr Klötze! Er war mir Klötze! Oh, so gerne will er nicht. Die Ruhe gibt nur der Ohren. Sie müssen in eigenen Seminaren ausgebildet werden, die dürfen nicht auf die anderen. Ich hab ein Bruder schlagen. Die Trübe weißt du variiert. Die verdammte Ruhe.
Michel's case is one of the strangest cases in world history. But this is not the only one. 10 years ago, an American man was found unconscious in his hotel room. When he was taken to the hospital and regained consciousness, he suddenly started speaking Swedish. When his ID card was checked and all the documents were reviewed, it was found that this man's name was Michael Boatwright. But when he was asked what his name was, he said his name was Johan A. A bizarre medical mystery. At Palm Springs, a Navy veteran wakes up one morning speaking only Swedish, with no memory of this part of his life. How did an American man suddenly start speaking Swedish after losing consciousness? How did Anneliese Michel start producing these demonic voices from her mouth? Did a demonic spirit really possess her? Let's try to understand these mysteries from a scientific perspective in today's video. In English, it's called demonic possession. In Hindi, it's when a ghost or spirit takes control of your body. The real reason behind all this is multiple personality disorder. You must have heard the name of this disorder somewhere. If you haven't, maybe you've seen movies where it's shown. Upperchit, Karthik calling Karthik, Fight Club, or Psycho. As the name suggests, multiple personality disorder means that a single person has multiple personalities. But how is that even possible? To understand this, we need to stop using this name. Because now this mental condition has a new name, dissociative identity disorder. You probably know what identity means. Identity means your sense of self, your recognition. But what could dissociation of identity possibly mean? The famous poet Nita Fazley once wrote, "Every person has 10 or 20 people inside them. If you want to truly see someone, look at them several times." This poetry actually has a deeper psychological meaning. Because first, there is the person you truly are. But then, there is also the person you think you are. Do you understand the difference? Someone here might actually be a fool, but they might think they're a smart and intelligent person. In psychology, there's a term for this called the Dunning-Kruger effect. This effect is seen when someone overestimates their abilities, especially when they actually lack knowledge and skill. There's even a saying for this in Hindi, "An empty vessel makes much noise." But being foolish or intelligent is just one aspect. This dissociation of identity can also happen when someone thinks they're a really good-hearted person, but in reality, they're selfish. Or it can be the other way around. Someone might actually be really good at something, but they feel like they're not that good. So, number 1 is the person you actually are. Number 2 is the person you think you are. This is your self-image. Number 3 is the concept of the ideal self, the person you want to become. This depends from person to person, and your social conditioning has a big impact on it.
I hate myself so much.
Self-image, ideal self, and self-esteem. Psychologist Carl Rogers says that our self-concept is made up of these 3 parts, and these 3 parts depend on a lot of different things. What our habits are like, what kind of environment we live in, what things make us feel proud, and what things make us feel embarrassed. What are our regrets? What are our secrets? What are we afraid of? What are our desires? What are our fantasies? It's possible that someone might look very happy on the outside, but deep down inside, they feel very sad and lonely. Like the poet once wrote, "You smile so much, what sorrow are you hiding?" It could be that someone appears to be very religious on the outside, but deep down inside, they don't actually believe in God. It could be that someone seems very respectful and humble towards others on the outside, but deep down, they might be filled with anger and frustration towards their boss or a family member. Biologically, it could also be that someone has the body of a man, but deep down inside, they feel like they are a woman. Or it could be that someone has the body of a woman, but deep down inside, they feel like they are a man. So, what I'm trying to say here, friends, is that our identity and our mind are very complex things. Sometimes, what happens is that our different identities dissociate into different personalities. These different personalities are called alters. A person can have 2 alters, 4, 5, or even as many as 20 alters. There's a famous case of Kim Noble, who has more than 100 different personalities. Each one has a different name, different age, different gender identity, different temperament, different body language, and even different memories inside the mind. Generally, to some extent, even many normal people show different personalities. For example, some people behave and carry themselves very differently when they're with their friends compared to when they're with their parents. The way you talk, your emotional tolerance, everything changes depending on who you're with. But in this DID disorder, these things go to a very extreme level. Not only do your body language and behavior change, but even your name and your age can change. In some people's cases, even different memories start to form in the mind. It's almost as if they're dividing their mind into separate compartments. In these cases, there is always one main personality that is seen in the person for the majority of the time. This is called the host identity or primary identity. Usually, this is the personality associated with the name you were born with. But in some cases, one of your alters can also become your host identity. For example, in Kim Noble's case, one of her alters, Patricia, became her primary host identity. Kim Noble has a 14-year-old daughter. When she takes care of her daughter as a mother, she doesn't see herself as Kim. She sees herself as Patricia. Besides Kim and Patricia, she has other identities as well, such as Judy, Julie, Abby, Dawn, Ken, Bonnie, and Haley. In 2017, a Hollywood movie called Split was released, which depicted this very thing. When Kim and her daughter went on the Oprah Winfrey Show, they were filmed twice. Once, when they were at home, Kim's personality was Patricia, and when they came on the show, her personality became that of 15-year-old Judy. There's no need to be too scared, because personalities don't change suddenly and in an overly dramatic way like you see in movies.
Can you tell me about yourself? How old are you?
I'm 12.
In fact, most of the time, if people don't know about it, they don't even notice it. One really interesting thing you see here is that whenever this personality switch happens, the new personality has no memory of what the previous one did. So often in their lives, they might forget their keys somewhere or order a pizza delivery, but then have no idea that they were the one who placed the pizza order. Sometimes, they even find their car mysteriously parked miles away from where they remember leaving it. One day, something very disturbing happened. A personality switch occurred while driving the car. The personality of Julie, who was 15 years old, took over while driving, and because of this, an accident happened. A person who suffers from dissociative identity disorder often doesn't even realize that they have it. All they notice is that they suddenly experience memory loss or lose their sense of time. They can't figure out where they were a few hours ago when one of their other personalities was in control. When Kim was told that she suffers from DID, Patricia and many of her other personalities refused to accept it. They thought, what a strange thing, this can't be happening to us. It took her 6 years of therapy before she finally accepted that something like this was actually happening. Once she understood this, gradually the pieces of the puzzle started coming together, and she began to see why she kept losing time over and over again. Why there were gaps in her memory from time to time.
It makes me sad. I don't have those memories that she has, Scott, so I'm hearing it like a third person.
With the help of psychotherapy, Patricia gradually began to accept her condition. But what is the solution to this? The solution is the opposite of dissociation, reintegration. Efforts are made to establish communication between the different alters so that all the identities can come together and merge back into a single identity. At the time this article was written, as of that time, her identity still hadn't fully integrated. Every day, she would experience 3 to 4 switches. But gradually, over time, she figured out what the triggers were that caused her personality to switch. For example, whenever food was served, Judy's personality would come out. Whenever she went to take a bath, the spirit of water personality would take over her body. By understanding these things, she gradually started to manage her DID system. But on the other hand, Annalise Michel, whose story I told you at the beginning of the video, wasn't so fortunate. She underwent 67 exorcisms over a span of 10 months, and after that, she died. What was the reason behind her death? Many people say that the devil and bad spirits create negative energy, and as a solution, they often talk about positive energy. You're often told ways to harness the universe's positive energy and fight against negative energy. One such idea is the law of attraction, which is discussed in the book The Secret, in The Alchemist, and even in a dialogue from Om Shanti Om.
If you truly desire something from your heart, the whole universe conspires to help you achieve it.
Is there any truth to the statement? Many of you have asked me to talk about this topic. That's why I would like to present to you the topic. Annalise did not die because of any demon or negative energy. She died due to starvation and acute dehydration, meaning a severe lack of food and water. Her weight had dropped so much that she was only 32 kilos. When news of her death spread around the world, it became a national scandal. Law enforcement agencies started getting involved here. They found that Annalise had actually been under psychiatric care since the age of 16. The physician who was treating her said that she was responding positively to medication and therapy. He explained that Annalise actually had 3 mental illnesses. The first was temporal lobe epilepsy, which I've already told you about. The second was anorexia nervosa. This is a mental illness in which people have a distorted perception about their weight. Healthy individuals feel like they are gaining weight, that they are getting fat, but in reality their bodies are healthy, and because of this, they keep eating less and less, and gradually they reach an abnormally low body weight. And the third illness she had was hyper-religious personality disorder. This is a condition in which a person's religious beliefs become so intense, so extreme, that they start reporting mystical experiences. They begin to have delusions related to spirituality. Such people often become obsessed with unholy things. Their thoughts are constantly preoccupied with whether they've committed a sin or done something wrong. The reason behind this is said to be Annalise's parents, who were extremely religious. Annalise's childhood was spent in an extremely religious upbringing. Because of this, Annalise felt that demons resided within her, and she would sometimes call those demons Hitler, sometimes Judas, and sometimes Lucifer. This is pretty obvious, because if someone here had been Hindu, Muslim, or atheist and was suffering from the same problem, these names wouldn't have come to their mind. Annalise only knew names like Lucifer, Judas, and Cain because she was taught about them in her childhood. A professor from the University of Würzburg said that because all these things added up, Annalise was experiencing a very severe psychic disturbance. The district attorney said that if she had received medical assistance at the right time, her death could have been prevented. This was the reason charges were filed against her parents and the 2 Roman Catholic priests who performed the exorcism on her. All 4 of these people were also convicted of negligent homicide. Now, a question might come to your mind here. Many of us experience irrational thoughts, internal conflicts, regrets, fears, different kinds of anxieties, repressed desires, and superstitions. But not all of us develop did. Why is that? What is the difference between people who develop this disorder and those who, despite experiencing all these other things, do not suffer from it? What is the root cause behind dissociative identity disorder, after all? When data was compiled on people suffering from DID in the US, Canada, and Europe, it was found that in approximately 90% of cases, those who suffer from this disorder have experienced some form of abuse at some point in their childhood. This abuse can be physical, emotional, or even sexual. It can be repetitive, or it might happen over just a short period of time. But this abuse leads to trauma. A psychological wound forms in your mind, and because of this trauma, your mind dissociates. It might sound a little strange, but it's true. Dissociation is a coping mechanism of the body. To somehow overcome the injury you've suffered here, your mind splits into different personalities. Obviously, this way of coping is not a safe method. This is a serious mental illness. Because of this, people fall into stress, anxiety, and severe depression. It can also lead people to substance abuse, like drugs and alcohol, and in many cases, they may become violent either towards themselves or others. Any traumatic event that happened to such a person in childhood often gets buried in their unconscious mind, and in most cases, they don't even remember what happened to them. And you might find the treatment method a bit strange when you hear it, but in psychotherapy, when this is treated, the therapist tries to help you remember that traumatic event. Because if you want to reintegrate the fragmented identities, to restore a person's single identity, then accepting and forgiving that traumatic event that happened to them is very important. The solution lies in remembering and accepting the past. Now, dissociation is something that, in severe cases, can lead to DID, dissociative identity disorder. But its mild cases are seen in many people, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Chances are, every other person watching this video has experienced a dissociative episode at least once in their life. Some studies say that 74% of people have experienced a dissociative episode at some point. Some studies conducted in America say this number is around 50%. That's a huge number, meaning almost half the world's population has experienced this at some point. But there's no need to be confused. This isn't something that's black and white, like either you have it or you don't. It's a spectrum. Just like there's a spectrum between democracy and dictatorship, dissociation also exists on a spectrum. There can be many moderate and mild cases, but only in extreme cases does it lead to DID as a disorder. Examples of mild cases include things like dissociative amnesia. You must have heard this line in some movie. What happened after that? I don't remember anything. Often, when people go through a traumatic episode, their mind dissociates that episode from time. They forget many details about it. This type of dissociation is called dissociative amnesia. Apart from this, there can also be dissociative fugue. I gave you an example of this at the beginning of the video, the story of Michael Boatwright. An American man who, after losing consciousness, suddenly started speaking Swedish. Do you know how this happened? The simple reason behind this was that he had spent a significant part of his life in Sweden. Swedish public records showed that Boatwright lived in Sweden on and off between 1981 and 2003. When several Swedish people were questioned, they said they knew an American who was very interested in medieval history. There were also several photos found of him from when he visited Sweden as a child. But after spending so many years in Sweden, he moved to Japan, where he got married and became a father. After that, he moved to China, where he taught English, and later he moved to California. Dice. Kat said that he was suffering from dissociative fugue state. In this condition, people become confused about the events happening around them. Here too, the trigger is usually some kind of trauma. Boatwright had 1 son and 2 ex-wives. But when Boatwright was asked about this, he couldn't remember any of them. There is a song by the band. In a song with this name, there's a line. I become so numb that I can't feel you there. There are some people who often feel like they are detached from their actions, their thoughts, and their feelings. Completely, they see themselves as outsiders. This kind of dissociation is called depersonalization. A similar type of dissociation is called derealization. In this, people feel like the world and people around them are very unreal. Everything feels like a dream. Time either moves very slowly or starts moving extremely fast. All these things are very serious mental health issues. But unfortunately, most movies either portray them in a very scary way or in a very insensitive way. For example, in the movie Bulbulaya, Rajpal Yadav plays a character named Kota Pundit. He is shown as someone suffering from a mental illness, and his only purpose in the film is to provide comic relief. At the end of the movie, a so-called psychiatrist treats him by slapping him. Even in the main storyline of Vidya Balan's character Avni, the psychiatrist uses extremely bizarre methods during treatment, methods that no real-life therapist would ever approve of. On the other hand, there are some films that portray dead patients in a very violent way, like Upperchit or Alfred Hitchcock's legendary film Psycho. They are shown as extremely dangerous people. This disorder is sensationalized for entertainment purposes. Dr. Simone Renders from King's College London says that where there is already a stigma in society about these disorders, such films make the problem worse by portraying dead patients as violent and dangerous people. In real life, most dead patients are actually not violent. A 2017 research study also came to the same conclusion. One film that portrayed a dead patient in a very sensitive and thoughtful way is Karthik Calling Karthik. You might remember this movie starring Farhan Akhtar and Deepika Padukone. Apart from this, there is also a Harry Envy web series called Apari Parai. In this, the rules of therapy followed by a psychotherapist are portrayed very well, how a psychotherapist creates an environment around the patient, focusing on safety, confidentiality, and trust. It also shows real-life techniques like guided imagery and the Bandler handshake, which are used in hypnotherapy. After watching this video, I hope you now have a good understanding of this illness. You must have understood that we should not create stigma around mental illness. If someone has a heart problem, they go to a cardiologist. If someone has a mental issue, they should go to a therapist. This is not a matter of ego. In real life, if someone is suffering from a lot of stress, anxiety, depression, or irritability, there might be an underlying illness causing it. That's why it's a good idea to consult a psychotherapist. And if you think that ghosts, demons, or witches actually exist in real life, it's time to open your eyes. We are living in the year 20